In the US, topics like fighting and war are treated like some sort of game. Take, for example, the countless hours kids waste playing video games like Black Ops 2 and Modern Warfare 3.
Brandon, our vow is... Yeah, you killed yourself! Uh-huh. It's a tie. Shut up. I am pretty good at this. If I can kill...
The same goes for the youngsters of Sierra Leone, except in their case, it's real life. Times were tough in Sierra Leone during the late 1980s. The government was a wreck, the economy was in a rut, and social inequality was a serious issue. Worst of all, no one was trying to make a change or help with the problems at hand. And from there, things went from bad to worse. On March 23, 1991, a group known as the RUF, or Revolutionary United Front, headed by corporate Fodo Sanko, felt change was needed in Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, the response of the RUF came at a serious cost, the beginning of a brutal civil war that would last for the next decade. The main goal of the RUF was quite simple: set up a democracy in the Sierra Leone government. This new government system will lead to better jobs and wages, more education, improved human rights laws, and even safer living conditions in Sierra Leone. In order for a democracy to be created, though, the current government system, the APC, run by Joseph Momo, had to be dethroned, the reason being that the organization was running the country like a dictatorship and had been unsuccessfully managing the flow of money throughout Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, as the fighting began in Sierra Leone, the RUF took on a more villain-like role. Instead of fighting for what was best for the people of Sierra Leone, the RUF had enslaved workers to mine for diamonds in the resource-rich areas of the country, which allowed the rebels to afford new equipment and ammunition. Most of the support for the RUF was given by Charles Taylor and his Liberian military forces, known as the NPFL. At the time, the RUF was in dire need of new troops and trainees to use in battle. The RUF used a very strategic way to gain more power in Sierra Leone. While encroaching on eastern Sierra Leonean soil, closest to Liberia, the militia had been abducting innocent peoples, particularly children, and had been forcing the victims to fight for the RUF. Due to the weak response by the National Army of Sierra Leone, the RUF had easily been able to invade the country and was quickly advancing through to the capital city, Freetown. By the end of 1991, the RUF was already in control of 1/5 of Sierra Leonean territory. In 1992, the NPRC, a military group headed by Captain Valentine Strasser, ousted the APC in a military coup because they were unhappy with the way the government was running the country, and they felt that the RUF was not being contained very well. The NPRC attempted to make a peace agreement with the RUF, while at the same time they composed a large infantry that was able to greatly diminish the amount of land the RUF possessed in Sierra Leone. Since the RUF appeared to be in a manageable position, the national government of Sierra Leone reappeared once again. 4 years after the NPRC was created, a democratic election was held in Sierra Leone. The winning candidate, Ahmad Sehan Kaba, part of the Sierra Leonean People's Party, was voted into office as the new president of Sierra Leone. While Kaba was in office, he established a new military force known as the CDF, replacing the previous NPRC. In 1999, the CDF was stationed in Freetown with the help of additional soldiers from Nigeria. Together, the CDF and the Nigerian troops were able to fend off a final wave of RUF soldiers near the capital city, forcing the rebels to retreat. After this gruesome defeat of the RUF, President Kaba and rebel leader Fodo Sanko agreed to a peace treaty on July 7, 1999 in Lome, Togo. To this day, the peace agreement is known as the Lome Peace Accord.
Although Sierra Leone was plagued with economic issues during the Civil War, one might wonder how this country is doing now. Well, after 10 years of civil war, Sierra Leone is finally at peace. It took a while for this to happen, almost 11 years. Recently, Charles G. Taylor, the former president of Liberia, was convicted in April with 11 accounts of planning, aiding, and abetting war crimes in Sierra Leone during the 1990s. Unfortunately, a country that's been through something killing more than 50,000 people, is going to show some scars. These scars can be seen in the survivors of this brutal war. Many people surviving the Sierra Leone War are amputees. Since the end of the 11-year civil war in Sierra Leone from 1991 to 2002, life continues to be very tough for Sierra Leoneans, particularly war victims. These amputees became such because the RUF would amputate innocent civilians. Post-war, these amputees are now running into trouble finding jobs. With no money, it makes living very hard. Although there is currently peace across the entire country, most of the war victims still cannot live as normal human beings as they are traumatized. Many of the amputees are still discriminated against, most forbidden to ride on a vehicle. Believe it or not, some amputees are doing just fine, as they have a profession in football. With regards to Sierra Leone's economy, their industrial sector accounted for 12% of the GDP and employed 5% of the workforce. The mining sector contributed 35% of the GDP and employed 10% of the workforce. The agricultural sector contributed 25% to the GDP and employed 65% of the workforce. This shows how Sierra Leone is beginning to get back onto its feet after going through such an awful civil war.